Genesis of the Daleks is the highest rated classic Doctor Who story, but does it deserve that title? Okay, so I've recently started doing classic Doctor Who reviews exclusively on my Patreon page. This video is just an edited down version of the first review that I've done on there for Genesis of the Daleks. If you want to watch the full 15-minute long unedited review, I'll make sure to have that linked in the description down below. And I'm also going to be doing some more classic Who reviews exclusively on the Patreon, so stick around to the end of the video if you want to hear more about that. But for now, let's just get into the review. Obviously, it starts with the Time Lords intercepting the transmat or whatever that the Doctor, Sarah and Harry are getting, and obviously he gives them the mission to basically stop the creation of the Daleks or alter their genetics in some way, and he gives them the time ring, which the way he says it, I think he gives it them and he's like, this is your lifeline.
There's just one thing.
What's that?
Be careful not to lose it. That time ring is your lifeline.
Obviously, from that, it's like at some point the time ring's going to get lost. So I was like, this is a little bit too obvious. But luckily, I'm pretty sure the time ring only gets taken away from them at the start of episode 2 or something. So as obvious as it is, they don't save it till the last episode and they're like, now we've got to find a time ring. At least it's like a whole thing that you know it's going to get lost, but it happens immediately anyway. And it's just another thing that they've got to try and get back. There's a lot of people, main characters, kind of almost escaping some situation and then immediately getting captured again and going back to where they just were. Like Sarah almost escapes the Thals with the rocket. She almost escapes that after climbing the scaffolding, just to immediately get caught by the Thals and brought back down to where she just was to carry on working for them. But for that reason, I do feel like maybe this story, although it's probably better paced than maybe some other classic stories, could have maybe been a couple parts shorter or something like that, maybe 1 or 2 parts shorter. Speaking of Sarah Jane and also Harry in this, Sarah has plenty to do in this, which is good. She's basically separated from the Doctor and Harry for the most part. But Harry in this, he's kind of just following the Doctor around and not really doing a whole lot. He does feel a little bit wasted in this episode and he's just kind of tagging along. First time we see Davros and the Daleks is right at the end of episode 1, which I think works really well. And the same with Davros. We hear about Davros a lot throughout the episode, but we don't actually see him until the end of episode 1 when he's testing out that first Dalek. But for that first scene, I do feel like it could have been, and I feel like this was the intention, I feel like at least with Davros, they could have been a little bit more obscured so that the first time we see him properly is when he comes in episode 2. And like I say, I do feel like that was the intention because of the lighting of that scene. It does look like he was meant to be more kind of in shadow, and I do feel like that would have been a little bit better if he was kind of in shadow, or if you just kind of saw his hand and you didn't really see him. The Daleks are really good in this because this is more of a Doctor and Davros story, and obviously a creation, a genesis of the Daleks. Obviously, they're not seen that much. They've got very little screen time in this whole 6-part story, and I think that works really well. Obviously, it makes sense because it's mostly about Davros and the Doctor. Because they don't have much screen time, whenever they are on screen, it's really a lot more impactful. And obviously as well, every Dalek kill in this episode, in this story, is made more impactful as well because we don't see them very often, and when we do see them, sometimes they either don't say anything and they're just kind of in the background, or they just kill one person or something like that. Back to Davros, I think he's great in this. You can tell that he's got a very clinical, scientific mind. Obviously the conversation between the Doctor and Davros in episode 5, I think that's most of what episode 5 is. It's just the Doctor and Davros talking. I think that's a great episode, and I think that works really well, and the scenes between those two characters together are really good. The fact that Davros and the creation of the Daleks started off as this thing to kind of help them in the war. Obviously for Davros, it doesn't become about that anymore. You can tell he's just become so obsessed with his creations, with the Daleks. Instead of letting the Khaleds shut down his experiments, he gives the Thals what they need to destroy the Khaleds and destroy all of his people, because at the end of the day, what Davros doesn't care about his people anymore, and his people winning the 1,000-year war. All he cares about is his creations, the Daleks, and so he literally gives the Thals what they need to destroy the Khaleds, his own kind, just as an excuse to, number one, to make sure the Daleks doesn't get shut down, but also so he can use it as an excuse to release the Daleks. His fate as well is very fitting in this episode, being killed by his own creations because of the programming that he's put into their brain of survival, and the fact that they basically kill anything that's below them, and they see that in Davros, even though he is their creator. But in his mind, because he's their creator, they're going to spare him, but obviously because of the way they are, they're not gonna.
I am your creator. You must, you will obey me.
I can see why this is the highest rated classic Doctor Who story. I do think it is really good. I don't think it's perfect or anything. Like I say, it could have maybe been 1 or 2 episodes shorter. Some great characters in this as well. A lot of the Carleds and even the Thals. Obviously Nida, the main scientist guy, I can't remember his name ironically, but he was very memorable. I really liked it. Like I say, not perfect or anything, but I really liked it, and I can see why it's so highly rated. Okay, so that was the edited down version of my Genesis of the Daleks review, which is exclusive to my Patreon if you want to watch the full unedited 15-minute review of it, where I go into a few more bits. These classic reviews are not going to be on this channel after this one. They're exclusively going to be on my Patreon page, and obviously more extended than this one was. So if you want to see those classic Who reviews, make sure to join my Patreon page, become a patron. I've got a few more coming up in the works. Some of them might already be out now. The next review after this one should be Terror of the Zygons, which I've already seen, and is possibly already on there by the time you're watching this. And a few others that I'm going to be getting into in the future is Pyramids of Mars and the Seeds of Doom. So if those classic reviews are something that you'll be interested in, check out my Patreon page, and there's a few more perks on there as well, including early access to all of my videos and a few more exclusive reviews. But if that's not something you're interested in, or if you can't afford to become a patron, that's absolutely fine. Just give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and watch this video here.